They say the desire for fame can sometimes be linked to greed and obsession with money, glitz, and glamour. Some say the desire for fame is about wanting all eyes on yourself and a need to be the center of attention. For some, that path rings more true than any other. A need to be noticed, to be more than what we are, can drive some of us to cold-blooded murder. Today is one of those stories, a story about murder, money, and an unhealthy obsession with fame and recognition. Lights, camera, murder. The Andrew Cunanan Story. Andrew Philip Cunanan was born August 31st, 1969 in National City, California. Andrew's father in 1981 enrolled him in the Bishop's School, an independent day school located in the affluent La Jolla neighborhood of San Diego. Although Andrew was bright and very talkative and tested with an IQ of 147, he started to gain a reputation for being a liar. Some said it was just simply teenage rebellion and figured as time passed he would stop. But he didn't. His need to lie grew wider and more fantastic as time went on. Andrew would often sometimes change his appearance according to what he felt was most attractive at a given moment. It was around these years in his teens, Andrew identified as gay in high school. Not long after, the young teenager began having sexual affairs with wealthy older men, most of whom he would get to spend money on him and lavish him with gifts. An eerie quote from his high school days was that he had been voted less likely to be forgotten, something that would echo the young man's future crimes. By 1987, Andrew had finished high school and enrolled at the University of California in San Diego, where he majored in American history. However, a year into his studies, his father deserted the family and moved to the Philippines to evade arrest for embezzlement, leaving Andrew, his mother, and Andrew's siblings behind. During the later part of 1988, Andrew began frequenting local gay bars, clubs, and restaurants, something his mother, who was deeply religious, was not happy about. The two fought viciously one night, and during the argument, Andrew threw his mother against a wall, dislocating her shoulder. A later examination of his behavior indicated he suffered from antisocial personality disorder, characterized by a lack of remorse and empathy, something that would prove true in the 19-year-old's life. After studying for 1 year, he dropped out of college and settled in the Castro district of San Francisco, a center of LGBTQ culture, and moved in with a friend and her boyfriend. However, the change of scenery didn't seem to make a change for Andrew while living in San Francisco. Andrew not only continued his creating false romantic connections with wealthy older men, but he also reportedly began creating violent pornography. He also hopped from area to area, living off one wealthy man to another for a short time, and while doing this, many believe Andrew started dealing drugs, including prescription opioids, cocaine, and marijuana. It had been rumored during this time Andrew met fashion designer Gianni Versace in San Francisco in October 1990. while Versace was in town designing costumes for the San Francisco Opera. But this story is one Versace's family has always denied that the two men ever met. In December 1995, Andrew met David Madden, an architect from Minnesota, in a San Francisco bar. The two began a long-distance relationship not too long after Madden ended the relationship in the spring of 1996, saying Andrew had a shady vibe about him. Andrew told many after this breakup that Madden was the love of his life. By September 1996, Andrew broke up with a wealthy older man who had been hosting and financially supporting him and soon maxed out his credit cards. He returned to selling drugs and this time began heavily using them himself and abusing alcohol. He was crashing and heading into a downward spiral despite telling everyone that everyone loved him and that he had it all. Many could see Andrew was slowly falling apart and becoming a shadow of the man that they knew before. By April 24th, Andrew and 4 friends attended a going-away party at Hillcrest, California Cuisine. But Andrew did not cover the tab, which had only rarely happened due to reaching the credit limit on both his credit cards and asking for a credit extension to afford his plane ticket to Minneapolis. The next day, when he arrived in Minneapolis, he stayed with his ex-boyfriend, David. The two had dinner at a local restaurant and had visited a club. Andrew had come to Minneapolis, however, for more than to catch up. He was looking for Jeffrey, a friend who had recently distanced himself from Andrew due to his drug abuse. On April 26th, Andrew stayed in Jeffrey's apartment while he was out of town with his boyfriend, John. The following afternoon, Jeffrey told John that he needed to have an important conversation with Andrew. But when the pair arrived at the apartment, Andrew was nowhere to be found. Jeffrey went to David's apartment around 9 p.m., and that would be the most deadly mistake he would ever make. On the night of April 27, 1997, Andrew let Jeffrey into David's apartment around 9:45 p.m. The two fell into a vicious argument, and sadly, this would be the last moment of Jeffrey's life. It's unknown if during the argument or a few moments after as to when Andrew attacked him and beat him to death with a hammer. 2 days later, on the 29th, the body would be found rolled in a rug and placed behind a sofa. Jeffrey's watch had stopped at 9:55 p.m., which is when authorities suspect the actual murder took place. Madsen would be Andrew's second murder victim. Authorities believe he had remained in his apartment with Andrew for 2 days after Jeffrey's murder, due to a neighbor witnessing the two men together in the apartment's elevator on April 28th, the day before the victim's body had been found. Because of this, investigators initially treated Madsen as a suspect in the murder, but Madsen's family insisted he was held hostage. On May 2nd, the two men were seen north of Minneapolis driving in Madsen's Jeep and later eating lunch together in a bar. It wouldn't be until the next morning that the body of 33-year-old Madsen was found on the east shore of Rush Lake near Rush City, Minneapolis, with gunshot wounds to the head and back from a .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol that Andrew had stolen from his previous victim's home.